I've been wildly disrespected as a single parent. Just being a young mum in general, there's a total lack of respect. Being half brown is always going to be an issue. People are always going to go, oh, brown girl.
31-year-old Tamsyn Matchett knows a thing or two about being dissed, both for her ethnicity and for being a young solo mum.
I think that even if, yes, we come to a position with a defensiveness, it's justified, and you should always listen to people. If they believe that they are being discriminated against, it's highly likely that they are, because they can recognise it better than you can, especially if you're a part of the majority. If somebody identifies discrimination, it's because they have experienced it time and time again, and they can see it better than anybody else.
Born in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, Tamsyn's half Tongan, half Pālangi. Of New Zealand's 200,000 sole parent families, Stats New Zealand says about 15% are Pacifica and 85% of sole parents are women. But statistics don't tell the story of a life.
Do you think that PI mums, solo mums, get it
I've
worse?
had nurses, and I know the stats are there, but the stats speak a different story.
But you've experienced this firsthand.
Yes, like expecting high levels of drug use during pregnancy or cigarette smoking, making huge assumptions, thinking that I don't have an education, or that I didn't have a job, or that I didn't have a house, or that I needed to be supervised, or
your child needed to be supervised.
Exactly, many of those things, and that was just the young brown mum thing.
Tamsyn has a Bachelor of Music from the University of Otago. She's worked with New Zealand Opera as an assistant director and performer, and is now the senior advisor to the counsellor support team at Auckland City Council. But all that was merely a dream when she had Ruby while she was still a student.
I was 24, very unplanned, and I barely knew Ruby's dad, if I'm being honest. We barely knew each other.
And is he
a quarter Samoan, I think? Yeah, he's pretty much Pālangi. So I was at the University of Otago. I became pregnant, moved home to Auckland, moved in with someone I barely knew. At the time, of course you believe that I was 24, I was still living a completely student lifestyle, living off my $150 student allowance and doing like a really casual job as a netball umpire.
Was he a student too?
No, he wasn't a student, but he wasn't working at the time. At the time I thought, I can do this, like I'm mature enough to handle this. And I don't want to diminish myself, but looking back, I was super immature. I was immature with the way I handled my relationship with Ruby's dad. I had unrealistic expectations about being a parent.
Tamsyn has around 60% of shared care, co-parenting with Ruby's father, who lives nearby. But it was a rocky start.
I had quite a traumatic birth. I was in labour for like 2 days. Ruby got stuck. I had an emergency C-section. Thank goodness, because, she was arrived safe and sound. But I really struggled. I struggled for so many reasons. I didn't really prepare myself for having a body I didn't recognise at 24 years old. I completely lost who I was, and it was devastating. And so I think I spent the next 2 years trying to pick myself together and going, well, who am I? What do I stand for? What am I? Because I really struggled losing my identity as a mother.
What split you guys up?
I completely fell apart as a person. I only acknowledge that now because I can be reflective.
And was Ruby really young when you
Ruby was really young. It was never healthy. It was never strong. It was never the
your
way
relationship.
It should be. And that was definitely not his fault. I mean, we split up and then we got back together and we moved in with other people, and that was a disaster. And so really I'd say she was about 2.5, and it was completely all over.
Yeah. So you'd struggled along.
Yeah, and we tried, and he tried, and the kind of fights that we would have, I'd think to myself, how can I justify this to a little baby? How can I justify this to a young child? It made no sense to me, and I thought it was never going to be anything but that. And I feel really responsible.
Do you think it's a good thing that you did split up?
Yeah. I mean, she's got 2 extremely, exceptionally loving homes now.
Yes.
So
That's her dad's and yours.
yeah, and that, how could you prefer to be in one unhappy household as opposed to going between 2 happy and loving and secure households? So I don't regret that decision, and I think that we were doing what we can have continued to do since then, is putting her at the very heart of our decision making.
If it takes a village to raise a child, in Tamsyn and Ruby's case, it's an extended musical one.
Who are your favourite singers?
I like Rihanna, Michael Jackson, Lord, and I also kind of like Justin Bieber and R.E.M. I like all the singers.
What do you think of Taylor Swift?
I like her, but my mum hates her.
4 of them live in their solid 60s, 3-bedroom family home in the North Shore. Nana Glenda takes piano lessons in the small studio downstairs, even in her 70s.
I'm trying to
By the
explain.
way, I breathe like Darth Vader.
You breathe like Darth Vader. Yeah, I can always tell when she's concentrating on Minecraft on her iPad, because her breathing changes from normal human breathing to mouth breathing.
Can you give us an example, Ruby?
No.
And I say to her, are you playing Minecraft?
So Ruby, who's sitting over in the corner there? Who's that? Is that your papa?
Great-grandfather.
It's Saturday morning and Ruby introduces me to great-granddad Papa Kenneth
Opera
first.
singer?
I used to be.
But he retired because he got dementia.
Every now and then when you're singing, does Kenneth come and join in?
Not really, but you like to sing. Papa goes to a care home. How many days a week do you go?
All the week.
3.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you sing there, don't you?
Yeah, Sunday.
His dementia's part of daily life.
The national anthem and God Save the Queen and various others.
All the oldies, all the
Yeah.
classics.
Then the matriarch arrives.
Hi, I'm Lynda. What's your name?
Glenda.
Glenda. Lovely to meet you, Glenda.
The matriarch. She's the boss of all of the entire family. When Nana's not happy, nobody's happy.
I believe that.
That's right.
Completely believe that.
Yes. So in the scheme of things, there is me
Yes.
in the top of the hierarchy, and then occasionally
No, Kim,
Kim, yes, the project manager that lives next door,
my auntie.
and then maybe
No,
at
and then
times.
Uncle Michael.
Maybe Thames,
Yes.
maybe not.
I'm
But
far
in
down
this
the line.
in this house.
In this house.
And then the dogs. Well, we had
No,
2 dogs.
Ruby, the dogs.
Yes.
Papa.
And then right at the bottom is Mr. Marshmallow, the popper. Yeah.
But Nana brought me up.
Yes. Who's just arrived?
Alex.
And who's Alex?
This morning, Tamsyn's rehearsing with musical director and best friend Alex for a touring production.
So I'm the music director for a show that's coming up, Dido and Naas Recompose, which we're taking to Wellington Bats Theatre. So we're going to be full on rehearsing that in a little while and then heading down to Wellington for a 3-week season there.
It's not a vocation for me. It's just something that I.
It's a passion.
Yeah, and also I think it's just. It's also a habit. You know?
I like that. It's a habit.
I can't seem to shake it. I'm lazy, so I don't have time to practice, and I don't have time to really dedicate what I should be. So it falls by the wayside every now and then. Singing opera is something that you have to devote so much time to, and if you wanted it as a vocation, you would dedicate your life to it. That's why so many female opera singers do not have children.
After rehearsal, it's lunchtime, and Tamsyn's catching up with her closest childhood friend Steph during a flying visit to Auckland.
Oldest friend. She's the most enduring friend.
Yes.
She's 100 years old.
That is not correct, Ruby.
Yes, she is 100 years old.
One day, hopefully. So, anyway, they used to go to discos together,
Yes, Tamsyn
and Stephanie. We would often
They're off
take
to
them, Ken
Daikoku,
and I would
their
take
favourite
them
Japanese
to
restaurant, for a
And
bite.
then Stephanie's parents would go and pick them up when it finished and bring them home. When they got
Glamorous
older,
blonde Auntie Steph's like another daughter to Nana Glenda and an auntie to Ruby.
home. They used to share a taxi home, but there were 3 of them, and they would take it in turns to be the last one. Suddenly, at 45, I became the carer, or the
Of a
mother
little baby.
of a baby.
How old was Tamsyn when she came to you?
Oh, she was here right from birth.
From birth.
Yes. I told the Plunkett nurse that this baby will fit into my life, not me fitting into hers.
Nana Glenda's explaining how she went from a mum to 2 teenage girls to a new role as a solo grandparent to Tamsyn.
For the first 2 weeks, I had her in my studio while I was teaching. Then I had to be very efficient. When we went out, I had to have all the baby things that I hadn't had for a long while. 20 years since I'd had a baby.
What she doesn't say was that she was holding down 2 jobs and coping with a husband who at the time was suffering with severe depression.
Marshmallow over here, he always a lovely dad, and very kind, but not very authoritative.
Is that why he's got the nickname? Sorry, Poppy, but you've got the nickname Mr. Marshmallow. Yes. He's grinning away at that one.
He loves the girls.
I guess at a societal level, New Zealanders and New Zealand culture is extremely conservative when it comes to considering what the makeup of a family should be and could be.
Because you and Ruby and your
And my village.
and your little village, your big
Yeah.
village actually.
My big village, we're bringing up a strong, independent girl, and we're doing it together. And yes, she is my daughter, and I am her primary caregiver, and the buck stops with me. But I need those people, and she needs those people, and together we are supporting the childhood and the rearing of one beautiful child. And yes, I live with my grandparents. My auntie lives next door. We have, my mum lives up north, my dad lives overseas, my brothers live,
And Ruby's dad lives just down the
and
road.
Ruby's dad lives,
in the
and then he has a big, disjointed
and
but
he's
supportive
remarried,
family.
or he's repartnered.
Yeah. This big village together, we're doing it, and I do it as a solo parent, and in my time, but it doesn't mean that there aren't a million other people that support me, and until we can connect the dots and say, a family doesn't look like that. A family isn't 2 parents bringing up a child on their own on their 1 acre section.
That's not the perfect family.
No, it doesn't make any sense for 2 people to be isolated alone and be expected to live with sleep deprivation and sickness and whatever else.
So the nuclear family is actually a fallacy, you think?
Yeah, I think it should be. I think we should be
community.
saying at all times, neighbours, whānau, the village, which should be our communities, and whatever that village is, relatives or not, people should be putting their hands out to all new parents, single, together, young, old. What can I do? And we should be stripping away the stigma of asking for help. It is your right to self-determine your own identity, to say, I don't want to just be a mum. And I think I said that to a couple of people at coffee groups, and people were so kind of taken aback and almost upset by me saying that. And it doesn't determine the quality of my parenting. It determines me as a person, that I don't just want to be a mum. I want to be not necessarily more, but I want to be other than that. I want to be Ruby's mum first and foremost, but a woman and a musician and a feminist and have a career and do all of those things, and I want those things, and I want to be a boss, and I want to be in charge of myself, and that means being more than just that one thing. The other issues are around, for me, and once again it lies with the state, housing and living affordability. I use my example. I earn a damn good salary for somebody at 31 who kind of just coasted through.
And you're a single income parent.
I'm a single income parent. I should, technically, on my salary, I should be able to live in a 2-bedroom home, not in the sticks. I should be able to live by myself with my baby and buy her fruit and veggies, fresh produce, live a humble but comfortable lifestyle. Yet we have allowed everything to balloon to the point where It's so unaffordable. I live with my grandparents out of necessity. Obviously, I need the support for all the other things I do, but I don't have a choice. If I wanted to live in an apartment with Ruby, I don't know how I could potentially do it. How with a giant student loan, which I have because I wanted to better myself and find myself in a position where I could earn money. How do I support a child and support her getting a decent education, which includes all the extra things that I think that she should do, her karate, her swimming, her piano lessons. That's an impossible dream for me. And
do you and your ex, Ruby's dad, share child support?
Of course we don't. There's no child support going on. We're 50-50, so we look after things as they stand. But even then,
it's really hard.
I mean, I get working for families, and it would cover me like probably 4 days bus, and I'm thankful for that. And I'm not looking at, I don't want additional. I don't need additional money from the state. I need affordable housing and
affordable living.
As a child, Tamsyn had no connection with her Tongan birth father. Nana Glenda explains.
Half of Tamsyn's heritage is, on my family is Portuguese, Irish, bit of English, and
that's why I can say Ireland in an Ireland accent. Ireland.
So, she's got to remember that there is a European side.
So she didn't know her father at first, but was able to track him down?
She found him maybe last year. I didn't. I told her that I would not help her while she was growing up. I would not help her find the father. We did try to find him, and but they'd moved away. And because I was supporting Tamsyn, I didn't really feel it was fair for him to come and take over.
This is the one subject, and your Nana broached it today, and she talked about why she chose not to let you, until you are of age, look for your Tongan side of your family or look for your father. And then she said it was because he had nothing to do with your upbringing, and she was wanting to protect you.
And that's her perspective, and I totally respect that, because she has every right to feel as I do over Ruby, protective of me. I view it slightly differently. Perhaps when I was younger and I just don't remember it, I talked about wanting to know who he was or wanting to hear more about him or wanting to even reach out. But I wasn't, from a very early age, in my mind, interested. I had no parental needs that weren't met. My grandmother was wonderful. I got everything. I got every experience I ever put my hand up for. I travelled overseas numerous times with different groups. I played every sport I could. I learnt the violin. I played the piano. I learnt how to sing. I was in choirs, orchestras. I played netball, dragon boating, athletics, rowing, football, cricket. And I just say, I want to do this now. And she would find the money and I'd do it. And so there was nothing I needed.
Can you remember the exact time you started thinking about your identity, your Tongan side of your life?
It's happened numerous times where I've gone, I feel such a deep affinity for my Pacifica community. I feel so strangely connected and defensive and proud and all of those things. And it wasn't until I did a course, when I was 29, through Auckland Council, and it was this great Pacifica mentoring course for Pacifica leaders, young leaders. And after that, I had a discussion with a couple of colleagues who said, I've always considered maybe now that I have a child, I should find my dad. And their reactions really laid it out clear for me. And it was something one of them said along the lines of, you are of Pacific blood, and in our cultures, that is absolutely your right. That is your blood right. That concept of blood runs so deep, and it's so important that I really felt that responsibility to connect and say, because I also struggled with the concept that if I was to go and find him and push myself on him, that I could potentially be destroying or fragmenting somebody else's family. And that, to me, made me deeply uncomfortable, and I thought that that was an extremely selfish thing to do.
But you did. What happened?
Well, so I looked for him on Facebook, and I actually found the same name, but it was somebody who looked like similar age to me. And when I scrolled through his photos, I looked at his face and thought, oh, that's a bit creepy. We look very similar.
When she became a solo mum herself, Tamsyn says her sense of identity was turned upside down, and she started looking as much for Ruby as for
This is my
herself.
name. This is my mother's name. I grew up in Auckland. Didn't know my dad. Apparently I'm half Tongan. I'm just wondering if you know who he is. And he got back to me and says, whoa, that's crazy. That's my dad's name. I'm his junior, and I looked through your photos, and I don't want to sound weird, but to me it looks like we're definitely related.
Wow.
So we kept talking for about 4 weeks, and then he said to me, do you want me to contact Dad for you? So he did.
Turned out to be your...
my half-brother who was a year younger than me.
Oh my gosh.
And
what's his name?
His name's Peter. And so he got in contact with Dad, who's also Peter or Petilo, and I got a email asking if he could call me, and while I was working on Tosca, and he did. And he's this beautiful Tongan man who I have only love for. But I've gone from having this tiny nucleus of a Palangi family to like this huge, like I've met my aunties and their children, and that is so much part of who I am. That experience has made me feel more like a whole person, because those Pacific roots, they're undeniable, and I can't expect.
And they're part of Ruby's life now.
Absolutely, and I can't expect my Palangi family to understand that.
Have your Tongan family met Ruby yet?
Oh yes.
So you've gone.
She loves her uncles. She loves them. So, and being Tongan is that's me.
Your dad, whereabouts does he live?
He lives in Australia. I've only seen him 3 times, I think, but I'm hoping to see him again this year. And the same with my brother Peter, who lives in Sydney. We've hung out twice now.
The rest of your brothers are here?
And we see each other fairly regularly, like maybe every 6 to 8 weeks I'll see them.
Cool.
They're the coolest dudes. I'm so proud to be their older sister. Yeah. And having met my dad and my brothers, we have exactly the same eyes. It's like somebody cut and pasted one of those magazine face jobs and cut and paste the same eyes across just a bunch of people's faces. So, and now when I see other Tongans, I recognise it. I see the structure of their eyes, and I'm like, whoa, you're Tongan. I look just like you. How could it have ever been a question? My older brother Alex said to me when we first met, he was like, "Far sis, it's pretty buzzy having a Palangi sister." Because I'm just like,
you're the Palangi.
I'm pretty white next to the rest of them.
Pretty white sister.
And like that's been my life really, is either being slightly too brown or slightly too white. I think that has had a big impact on me, me struggling to realise who I am until a very late stage, for me at least.
As a mother, have you wanted to make sure that Ruby celebrates every part of her cultures?
Completely.
Tongan, Samoan, Palangi.
Yeah, and she's proud. I tell her all the time, you're a little Pacific princess. And she, in her last primary school, joined the Samoa dance group. And there, my little Palangi girl in the front row, just like so involved. And I will continue to support her and to push her to connect and hold strong to those foundations.
Ko Lynda Chanwai-Earle aho, and you've been listening to Flying Solo, engineered by RNZ's William Saunders, Steve Burridge and Phil Benge. In Flying Solo next week, we meet Māori police officer and solo dad, Henare, and his 15-year-old son, Tama. You can find us on iTunes or check out our webpage, at radionz.co.nz/flying solo.